Good evening, everyone. I am Sima Motiani, and I am in conversation with Rena Singhvi Jain and Dr. Aditi Bhutoria for the virtual book launch of The Golden Bird 2.0, Resurgence of India. I would like to begin with a brief introduction of the author. Rena Singhvi Jain was born in Pondicherry. Growing up in Tamil Nadu was a living lesson for young Rena to embrace upon multiple worlds and cultural acceptance as the only way forward for any entrepreneurial and, more importantly, human endeavor. Rena polished her life skills with a bachelor's degree in business management and an MSc in international business from the Manchester Business School, University of Manchester in the UK. She subsequently returned to the country and spent 2 years working at Google in Hyderabad. Eventually, the family business beckoned, and she joined her father's enterprise of dry flowers called Ramesh Flowers Private Limited, which is now owned by the Gala Group in Germany. The rigorous hours spent in the factories of the family business, managing over 3,000 employees, became her training ground in human resources, compliance, manufacturing, marketing, interpersonal skills, and general business dynamics, leading to the 12 years that she has spent honing the organization. Always one for a challenge, Rena initiated, conceptualized, and runs now the e-commerce brand called Maiva in India for the Gala Group and heads their sales all across the country. Maiva soon grew to be a widely recognized brand and has an enviable consumer presence amongst the predominantly B2B offerings of the parent organization. Maiva has made luxury candles an essential part of every household and continues to grow under her guidance. Rena now resides with her husband, son, and parents-in-law in Bangalore. It was during the troublesome times of COVID-19 and this lockdown that she took to writing her book called The Golden Bird 2.0, Resurgence of India, which we will talk more about soon. But now let me go further and introduce our second panelist, Dr. Aditi Bhutoria, who is an education economist, and her current research focuses on the design, delivery, and impact of the education policy and related technological interventions across developed and developing markets. She has completed her PhD in economics of education from the University of Cambridge in UK, and she has an MSc in economics from the London School of Economics and Political Science. Prior to joining the public policy and the management group at the Indian Institute of Management in Calcutta as faculty, she was a postdoctoral fellow at the Harvard Kennedy School in the USA. During this period, she worked with the Ministry of Education in Saudi Arabia to develop education and evaluation policies related to the kingdom's vision of 2030. I welcome the both of you here today.
Thank you.
Now, I would like to go one step further and introduce to you the book, The Golden Bird 2.0. The Golden Bird 2.0 draws from India's rich past to take a fresh look at potential for a glorious future. A second golden age shaped by powerful public will, economic wherewithal, the nation's status as the world's leader. What made ancient India the golden bird in the first place? What did China, the land of the dragon, have in common with India? And when did these two ancient civilizations diverge on their own paths of global success? While colonization pressed the brakes on India's confidence and self-reliance, China emerged from imperialism with a clear vision for its future and a strong implementation to boot. The Oriental superpower fashioned itself as the world's factory, creating jobs and uplifting millions of people from poverty. How did China make its mark on the world stage, and where did India fall behind? How can India tap into its golden past to pave the way for a brighter future? Do you think Atmanirbhar and Make in India as two concepts can usher in the new era of economic growth and global leadership? A closer look at our journey since the independence reveals the gaps that we need to bridge. Can we, as citizens, draw from the vision and the ideals of our own freedom struggle to build about the next phase of our future? Rena discusses the immediate need for a quantum jump in our attitude towards development. While conventional wisdom suggests improvements in manufacturing, the ease of doing business, and digital technology, Rena delves deeper to draw surprising parallels between other areas that beg our attention, such as process engineering, communication design, journalism, decentralization of power, and disaster management. She presents research and insights on entrepreneurship, trade, and education, challenges us to reconsider our chalta hai attitude, and reveals how we can turn our immensely diverse, and reveals how we can turn our immense diversity and this stopgap approach to the problem solving into a tool for advancement. With this inspiration from the past and an earnest look at our present, the Golden Bird suggests the paradigm shift that the Indian mindset can finally make towards a remarkable progress. This book is a work of reflection and a call to action, urging Indian citizens to act now in the revival of the genius that lies dormant within each one of us. Now we shall discuss this forward with a few questions for Rena. Rena, firstly, I would like to begin this interview by asking you, how did you manage to come up with this book in such a short time? Being a woman entrepreneur, as well as a mother of a toddler, just tell us some about your journey.
So first of all, I would like to thank Oxford Bookstore for giving me this platform to talk about my book today. And I would really like to thank Dr. Aditi Bhutoria for giving her precious time today on a holiday. And also very thankful to her for giving me the foreword for my book. So thank you very much for that. And thanks, Simar, for asking me this question and the lovely introduction that you've given me. Though the ideation and writing process took me around 6 months, writing truly sparked an interest in me post the discussion that I had with my father back in March when the lockdown was announced. And I've worked with Ramesh Flowers for almost 12 years now. And having worked in an environment that gave me multiple opportunities to hone my skill in various departments like sales, marketing, procurement, quality management systems, compliance, etc., I was able to have a holistic view on the current situation that India, or a matter of fact, the whole world is going through because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And in this situation, when I heard our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji announce the Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign, something instantly struck, and I realized that there is so much that I want to share with the citizens of this country, especially the youth. And having a management background all throughout, I was able to envision India becoming the factory for the world. So, The Golden Bird 2.0 Resurgence of India is my debut book, and the journey has been truly amazing so far. Yes, it was challenging. I have a toddler at home, and I run the brand Maiva in India. And initially, during the lockdown, we also saw a huge impact in the initial months. So there was lots happening, but I think it was the lockdown itself that gave me the opportunity to take time out and start penning my thoughts. So sometimes it would be a late night, or sometimes I would be up at 5:30 in the morning and I would start writing. So, but this journey honestly could not have been complete without the team that I had formed, my editors, researchers, my designers. So it's really a lot of credit that went to them, goes to them also for this fast turnaround that I've seen with the book. The topic that I've written on is something that also could not have waited for release anytime later than September. The facts and figures in the book are very fresh at the moment, and that's one of the larger reasons why I had to self-publish the book under Veer Publishing House, as most of the renowned publishers need a period of 3 months, 6 months to even revert if they're okay to publish your book, and I did not have that kind of time. So this has pretty much been my journey so far.
It is definitely an opportune time to come out with a book like this.
Yeah.
Rena, the Golden Bird also draws from India's rich past to take a fresh look at its potential from a glorious future. What has made ancient India the Golden Bird in the first place?
So, India used to be called Sone ki Chidiya, the golden bird in ancient times. And if we look at the work done by a renowned economic historian, Angus Madison, he estimated economic metrics for the bygone eras. And according to his research, India possessed the largest economy in the world in GDP terms for over 1,000 years. And they say in the year 1700 AD, India recorded an annual income that was greater than the entire British treasury at that time. So, and India was called the Golden Bird, Sone ki Chidiya, because of its wealth of minerals and precious gems. And even now, it has the fourth largest reserve of natural resources on the planet. These minerals, alongside its exotic list of spices, they were prized commodities in the ancient period. And this made India a major hub for global trade. And in India's medieval era, that is the late 1800s, the country began to industrialize and its manufacturing sector gained momentum. We excelled in the field of cotton textiles, handicrafts. This segment was booming. And this was not all. We had quite a strong industrial base in shipbuilding, metal work, marble work, stone carving, leather tanning, etc. So, in fact, at its peak in the early part of the 18th century, India represented around 25% of the world's total industrial output. So, however, during this journey, it's true that in spite of India and China coming from similar backgrounds, China still moved way ahead and became the factory for the world. And this is where the whole concept of this book arrives from as well. So yeah.
Great. Um, Also, just to take this question a little further, in your
Yeah.
book, you speak of a second golden age, which is why Golden Bird 2.0
Yeah.
for India. And you see its rising fortune as a world leader. Now, how do you envision this happening when you yourself said that China feels like it might be a few steps ahead already?
Right. So the current global scenario has brought India to a juncture where we can become the world's next sought after manufacturing hub. It's a Herculean ambition with numerous gaps in the system that need attention. And my book, The Golden Bird 2.0 Resurgence of India, is all about this. Through and through, it's just this. And I'm optimistic, because we are witnessing a lot of reforms now, and so many policy changes that we're seeing. And somewhere I feel that we are moving towards the right direction. It's We are taking these steps towards achieving this Herculean goal, and I feel that we are moving in the right direction. I keep saying this in all my interviews that India will very soon become the most populated country in the world. And we have to prepare ourselves to build a bright future for the youth of this country. And we have the talent, we have the very hardworking people. What we really need is to align the support, the direction, the mentorship with the opportunities.
Thank you. Dr. Aditi, I would like to ask you my next question. Your profile speaks volumes of your contribution in the field of education. You have also written the foreword for Rena's debut book. What attracted you to the Golden Bird 2.0 in the first place? And do you feel that this book has the potential to make an impact on India's journey ahead?
Thank you so much, Simar. I was hoping you would ask me that question. First of all, I would like to say I'm extremely excited about being in this call. I'm excited because I truly do support Rena's effort. When she first came to me and narrated the idea of the book that she was writing, very interesting idea. And there were two parallel thoughts that just came across me. One was, we definitely need this. There is a need for this, and someone needs to do it. And COVID-19 has come up, so something good has to come out of that as well. So I'm glad the book did come out. But the second part was the challenge. I mean, the sheer challenge of combining multiple sectors, to combine multiple perspectives and different disciplines, different points of view and views, and just like bringing it all together in a simple language which communicate to the youth of the country, as Rena said. It's a massive task, right? So I'm extremely happy. I got a hand of the book early on, so I'm one of the lucky few. I got a chance to read some of it, and I'm extremely, extremely happy with the kind of product Rena has come up with. And, kudos to her for actually bringing this out. Just a quick point, I think she was going in a really fascinating direction. When you asked her this question on the golden bird and India being the Sone ki Chiriya, the erstwhile Sone ki Chiriya, and how can we really reach that again? We were the house of, say, universities like Nalanda, universities like Takshila. They were all based in our country. And there are annals of work which talk about how Nalanda University attracted scholars from mostly everywhere in the world, especially South Asia, China. Yung Sang came from China to India to be a part of Nalanda because he could not get that knowledge anywhere else. So I truly feel that, when I was thinking about the idea which Rena brought out in her book, it brought me back to thinking about a lot of these elements that were a part of our culture, and how a lot of the young population misses out on that. So I think this is a great book to introduce you to that heritage, but yet again take it to a new level of maturity because it brings in perspectives of practitioners. So I think it's Rena, amazing that you've gone out and interviewed so many people across different sectors and brought out their point of view, which are real practicable points. These are not just points which are theoretical. These are points which come from experience. And I think that's the value add for this book.
Thank you. I would completely agree. I've read the book, Rena, and I must say that it's a piece of work that is sure to get the youth of this country thinking in a direction that's critical for us now to become self-reliant. Your book also promotes the Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign. Now, do you really feel that a campaign such as this can make a difference, and can it help India become the golden bird again?
Well, Simar, let's first look at the most recent changes that we have witnessed. In the year 2013, India's economy was going through its worst economic downturn of the decade. Demand was sluggish, investment was sparse, rating agencies around the world, were considering downgrading our credit rating. And when that happens, it makes it harder for the nation to borrow money in the future. And then we had our newly elected government and our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji come up with their initial response on the 25th of September, I think, on 2014, a date which marked the beginning of their novel campaign, Make in India. And as the initiative panned out, we could see several successes. I mean, in the year 2015 and 2016, FDI inflow grew by 20%. And by 2017-18, we broke all records and it attracted 60 billion US dollars in 2017-18. Furthermore, over the course of 3 years, for 2014 to 17, India actually improved in its standing in the ease of doing business ranking by 42 places. So, and then came the COVID-19 pandemic. So the pandemic pushed India's initiative to the next level. This happened through the launch of two more strategic campaigns. One was the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, and the other was Be Vocal for Local. And now these campaigns are known for their greater vigor. They are much more bolder, even more aggressive than previous efforts. So all of this is pushing us towards the right direction. And my vision for India goes even further. I not only want to see us become a self-reliant nation, but I want India to become a wealthy and a prosperous country all over again. So, if you ask me, I would say yes, campaigns like this will surely bring a drastic transformation and will push the citizens, especially the youth of this country, to work in a manner that will boost the economy of the country, whether it is through innovation, design, creation of new job opportunities, enhancement of demand for products that are produced locally. The campaign is here. The Atman Bharat campaign is here to help us achieve the vision we have of making India a $5 trillion economy by 2024.
I couldn't agree more. I just feel that as people, um, we as citizens at this point in time, I think the direction that is required could be brought in by the Atmanirbhar campaign, and only if we take to it correctly. Thank you, Dr. Aditi. The book speaks about many areas of focus for a new India. Which one has got your attention, and why so?
Again, a very hard question. I have gone through a lot of the chapters, but of course, Atmanirbharta and the entire idea, the critique of it in positive light, the challenges of really reaching India's vision in 2022 and further on is definitely one of the most interesting parts. But you're talking to an education economist, and I cannot help but say that, any conversation that brings in human capital, that brings in the idea of a trained, good quality labor into the markets, or that brings in the idea of educational institutions and institutions of global eminence, that's what my research is focused on a daily basis. So I really enjoyed reading that chapter and thinking about it and having conversations with Rena on that, right? So I would say education is that the solution is the chapter in the book.
Great, thank you. Rena, what according to you is important for us as Indians to look into with regards to the national education policy of 2020?
The Indian education system had gaps that needed attention. So what were the gaps? I mean, the gaps are still there. We hope that the policy helps amend them, but take care of them. But rote learned examinations, outdated syllabi, poor training of faculty, poor infrastructure, mediocre teaching techniques, a severe dearth of funds, a lack of mandatory vocational training. So a policy like the national education policy was, I think it was a long awaited one. And I think we've seen a fairly good response to the NEP since the rollout. While it does not tackle all of the issues that I pointed out, it does go a very long way, and it will be interesting to see how well it is executed on the ground over the next few years. The NEP has set high targets. It will ramp up the government spending. It also hopes to achieve all of the proposed initiatives by 2040. And I can give you a few examples. One of them would be it seeks to achieve basic language and math abilities by class 3 for all children in a matter of just 5 years. And it has also claimed that by 2025, at least 50% of all school students will be exposed to vocational training, which is brilliant. I mean, if we are able to achieve this, it's something that would be worth applauding. And if you ask me why an education policy such as this is important, today we see a huge gap in the supply and demand of human resources. On one side, we face unemployment. The unemployment figures are soaring, and on the other, there is a dearth of good engineers. If you look at our judicial system, we can see so many vacancies. So in every field, there seems to be a gap, and this gap has to be bridged. Today, we look at institutions like the IITs, the IIMs, and absolute awe. Yet, unfortunately, we have only a handful of these institutions in India. And but this is the quality of education that we need across the country. And this vision has to percolate to every state, city, district to create thousands of institutions of this caliber. So it would be really very interesting to see how this policy change puts India on the world map to showcase one of the finest learning systems in the world. Everything will depend on the execution. But we have an expert with us today, Dr. Aditi, and I don't know any other better person to give thoughts on the NEP. So, Dr. Aditi, what are your thoughts on this? And being on the forefront of this profession, it would be lovely to hear from you on the NEP.
Thanks, Rena. I think we are very much aligned in our thought process on the NEP, and this is something we've discovered while we've had our previous conversations as well. I think you really pointed out a very comprehensive point of view where you put in lots of thoughts on what are the challenges right now in the education sector. And I come from a B school, so I now have gotten used to a bit of the system. I've become a stakeholder and a part of this entire ecosystem. So I would say I would like to boil it all down as a matter of 4 T's. Sorry for MBA jargon yet again. It basically starts with the idea of the NEP really bringing into spotlight the concept of teachers. We come from the Gurukul system, and this is something I know you've also spoken about in the book. A system where the Guru has been the revered figure. We go to the Guru with questions, and the Guru is expected to help us decipher the text, even the most simplistic text, right? So the NEP has really brought in focus back to teachers, which I think is a real big positive step in learning. The second important thing that it's done is focus on testing and assessments, right? It's not just enough to have a particular kind of curricula out there, but it's equally enough to understand where are students from socioeconomically backward backgrounds, or how far are we in terms of comparing ourselves to global learning levels, global outcomes, performance in math, science, non-cognitive streams. And so the NEP really focuses on cognitive and non-cognitive testing. The other 2 T's, the third one is more like sort of pervasive, is technology. So digitalization, the idea, something that has become almost a matter of fact now. I mean, instead of an actual bookstore with the smell of books right now, we're sitting here and, Oxford Bookstore, I've been there many a times, and such a beautiful place. And instead we are doing this on Zoom. So technology has become a part of our daily lives, and the NEP realizes that, which I think is commendable. It realizes its potential, but also its drawbacks, and kind of says that, yes, we need technology in schools, but say, for example, arts and culture still needs to be taught offline. And finally, I think the most important bit, which is also covered in the book, Rena, is the idea of training and the idea of research, right? So as a nation, when our gurus earlier, when we revered India as this learning hub centuries ago, the gurus would practice everything on their own first before really imparting that knowledge onto their shishya or the students. And today, that form of practice is actually research. As a professor, as a faculty, it is one of my primary goals to create innovative research, path-breaking research in the field that I work in, work with practitioners, work theoretically, and to contribute to the innovation of the country, to contribute to the growth of the country. And that is where, I remember there was this beautiful graph in the book, which actually spoke about publishing statistics, Rena, in the chapter, and it showed that India is actually far away when you compare India with other countries like the US, the UK, Germany, China, and so on, right? In terms of how much we publish, in terms of our R&D expenditure. So from the policy end, R&D expenditure has definitely increased. R&D focus has definitely increased. But now it is, a call for action for basically the faculties, for higher education institutions, and for us, as students, as stakeholders, to really value research, to value evidence-based work. The fact that you're presenting all of these statistics, Rena, shows that this is not anecdotal. It is based on hard and evidence. It is based on material, data, statistics. And I think we need to now start looking at those things and focus our policy formulation and our practice with evidence, with data, and with research, working with faculties at these eminent institutions. So this is, in short, what I would think. I would probably take a few days if I want to continue talking about NEP, but I would stop here.
Thank you, Dr. Aditi. Rena, would you like to add to that?
No, I think I just said what I had to say about the NEP, and I completely agree with Dr. Aditi on everything that she said. But I still believe, because I'm not from the education, I'm not, like Dr. Aditi is in this field like day in and day out. This is her field. So for me, it's more of what I have read. It's more of what the research that I've done. So I'm looking at this from the outside. So it'll be really very interesting for me to see how things, unfold in front of us in times to come.
Absolutely. This conversation about the NEP already makes me feel like we're, in there pretty much for the golden era to come now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Rena, talking about education, I would like to ask you, you've somehow been very impressed with the education system of South Korea as per your book. What is it about them that you feel is worth learning from?
So, South Korea has excelled in the domain of research across subjects, especially to do with science and technology. As a matter of fact, it has achieved the highest rate of tertiary education amongst all the advanced and developed countries in the world. And South Koreans are consistently ranked at the top in the program for international student assessment, if you've heard of it, PISA. And when India took this test, we actually came 73rd out of 74 countries. So the extent of investment in the education and research sector has been phenomenal for South Korea. And for several decades now, South Korea has spent between like somewhere 6 to 7% of its GDP on education every year. And both primary and middle school education is entirely free of cost. And the government is already working on doing the same for high school and undergraduate degrees as well. Also, the cultural value of education has been very high in the Korean society. It is considered deeply important, and this mindset has been protected over the years. It is precisely why citizens are very happy to pay the education tax, because it leads to a better education system. And Korea's education sector has been molded to fit its economic structure. So its education policies were coordinated with the government's 5-year plans. And so many Meister schools were set up. Meister schools are schools, they are high schools that are tailored to the demands of the industrial sector. So many Meister schools were set up to fast track vocational training, for example. So the institutions also, like the educational institutions, they also collaborated with some of country's big companies and helped create in-house training facilities for various professions. So these are some, I was totally floored and impressed with, the way they have taken care of the education system in their country. And I definitely feel we have a lot to learn from them.
I wish we could pick up a few things from them in the coming few years now. Well, you've also been receiving great feedback on the book, and I happened to see some of the reviews on Amazon. Congratulations on that. The one thing that everyone is seeming to appreciate a lot are the stats, the research, and the graphs shown in the book. I must say, they look very, very impressive. And those stats and those graphs have made it simpler for readers like me also to understand a non-fiction book erupting from hardcore economic issues and political science, which at the onset seems like it's really vast because your book deals with so many different aspects. But is there a message that you would like to give to those who shy away from non-fiction and feel that this might be a heavy book?
Thank you so much, Samar, for asking me this question. I think this I felt would have been a very big challenge for me when I started writing this book. I think it was very important for me to make the language lucid and simple. And I'm glad that I've been getting a very positive response on this front. Many of us shy away from with the nonfiction books, especially the ones that went from hardcore economics and political science, because it becomes very dry and boring at times. So, though it was very important for me to pass several messages via my writing. And so the book, if as you've read it, you may know that it's full of information. So it was very important for me to ensure that readers resonate with my thinking and understand the points I've tried to drive. So I've tried my best to break down concepts, give definitions wherever needed, and add several illustrations, graphs, etc., to make the concept easy to understand. And it's crucial to know where we come from, to pave a path towards where we want to get to. So I had to show our journey from the ancient past to our present in a very, very clear manner. And it's very, I truly feel that it's very important for us to understand our history, our present, and then decide which path do we want to take ahead of us. And I really hope I've done justice to this. So that is something which I really want to wait and see. I once I have more people reading my book and giving me reviews, and that's when I will know if I've done the right thing.
At least for me, you have, because as a reader, just the way you laid down the foundation in the first many chapters, not to give away too much, but it was highly interesting to know these facts that one would not know, and realize that where we've come in the last 50 years vis-a-vis the other countries as well, it just gets you inspired and on that path to actually get to the resurgence that you speak about. So thank you.
Thanks.
All right. At this point, we will open the forum to any questions that the audiences may have. And yes, we have received a question. Well, on the social media platforms, we've been asked a question for Dr. Aditi. So here goes. Dr. Aditi, what is the role of AI in the education sector in India currently? And how do we see it evolving and playing a major role in the coming years?
I think that's a fantastic question. So thank you so much, whoever's asked that. So I think technology today has become almost received a tailwind which it was not expecting because of COVID-19. And today we are learning on apps more frequently than we are learning in schools. Now, when we talk about this edtech market, India, in fact, is one of the leaders, right? Alongside US and China, India has one of the most biggest proliferating edtech markets in the world. That's one. It has some of the biggest companies. Byju's, our very own Byju's, is a unicorn in the education technology sector. And all of this relies, like this educational software, whether it's to train you for maths, for English, for your basic school curricula, for passing a CA exam or a CAT exam, whatever it may be. it is heavily reliant on either AI or machine learning or a lot of renewed technology which is progressing by the day. What this does is gives extreme amount of personalization, the possibility for customized learning, right? So Rena was mentioning rote memorization. What AI or technology in education is doing is that based on your responses, it is feeding back the learning into the software so that the next question you get or the next training material you get is on the basis of your learning needs. And that would be different for you, for Rena, for myself, if all three of us were using the same software, the same app. So there's extreme amount of potential in terms of what can be done. But, you know, I'm a researcher in this space and also trained as an economist, and I never look at anything as a silver bullet, right? So there's also this drawback, and that is that technology has the capacity of accelerating anything, good or bad, and making it move faster. So if, for instance, the education sector is not catching up to the needs for learning, the actual needs for learning, cognitive skills and non-cognitive skills, then technology will only try to propagate rote memorization further. It will only try to present that same material in a way that it comes to you faster and you're able to memorize more, which is not really the solution, right? So that's where the NEP comes in, which makes sure that the technology is supplemented with real changes in the curricula and the pedagogy in what we are reading, not just how we are reading it, right? And hence I see it only growing in Indian space. The startup industries in education are really growing massively. So I am very optimistic about this space and the use of AI or ML and, you know, advanced technologies in education. Extremely optimistic about that.
Absolutely. I feel the minute rote learning goes out of the window, I feel we have moved forward, because I think while I was growing up and in school, that was one thing that bothered a lot of us. You know, the fact that we had to regurgitate pretty much out what was put in the textbooks.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you so much for that answer.
Thank you.
Now we have another question. This one's for Rena. Rena, the Golden Bird 2.0 has highlighted several factors pertaining to the growth of MSMEs in India. Oh, wow, this is a topic I love. You had suggested that they could do with adequate financial support and mentorship in your book. How far are we in terms of exposure to international standards, and how do you envision the MSMEs bringing a path-breaking transformation into the unorganized sector in India? Wow, this is from someone who's actually read your book.
Okay. So, Simar, MSMEs are the backbone of this country's economy. Our micro entrepreneurs who set up new businesses every year, they definitely need access to funds, mentorship, because they might not really have the exposure that a medium or a large scale business can afford to have. And trust me, if these entrepreneurs can get access to the basics, they can truly bring a drastic transformation. There is a lot of work that needs to be done, whether it's changing our cultural mindsets to policy reforms. There is too much to cover, and thus I really recommend, and this is one of the reasons why I really, really recommend the youth of this country, entrepreneurs, even people who are just thinking of setting something up. Please read the book, The Golden Bird 2.0. For all of you who are interested to know more on this, I have written quite a bit on the unorganized sector of the country and how important it is to make it an organized sector, and it also points as to how we can do this. So MSMEs are truly they are the true hope, I would say, to even make Atman Bharat a success.
Thank you, Ren. And thank you, ladies, for such an enlightening conversation. Sorry, there's one more question that's come up. If you don't mind, Dr. Aditi.
No, completely fine, don't worry. Yeah.
Here's another question for you from the audience. It's relatively broad, I see. What is the role of innovation in the current times to achieve the vision of the new golden era?
I think I would like to take this, given this is the final question we're taking alongside Rena, and we can both contribute to it. So, firstly, innovation, right? It's a really broad term, but academically, if you look at the idea of innovation or technological growth, there's been decades of work in economic theory by Solow and others, which shows that innovation is one of the most important factors which leads to the growth of a particular country, right? So what is the role? It's one of the most important roles. We need to keep innovating and need to keep developing. But again, that brings us to where innovation really takes place. And that's where the MSME sector also comes in. If that sector is given that leash of life, if that sector is given the right impetus, then there can be that possibility of innovation at a massive scale. And once you have that innovation and you have that, we already have the demand, right? Like from the supply side, if you get the innovation, from the demand side, we already have one of the largest demographies in the world. You know, we have a large population and consumer demand. A combination of the two can be a fatal combination when it comes to thinking about long-term economic growth and, you know, a fantastic opportunity for India. So again, innovation also connects to R&D. You know, the point that I made earlier, that research and development is extremely important. And if our education sector is able to lead to individuals who can think beyond just rote memorization, who can apply and have flexible skill sets, then that can again foster innovation, again leading to economic growth and better education systems. So it's all a cyclical process, you see, Simar, but overall extremely important. And I know Rena also mentioned this in the chapter where she spoke about digitalization, I think, and IP. So property rights and the need for consolidation and security, right, for property rights to ensure that we can grow, but then we can also secure our innovation. So it's not just about innovating, that's number one, but also keeping them secure. There has to be the right legislative procedures in place for that level of security and confidence so that the economy can grow as envisioned and in the Golden Bird 2.0. Yeah.
Thank you. Rena, would you have some closing thoughts on that?
Yes. So when Narendra Modi ji said "Make in India," he also said "Design in India." So he said that it has to go hand in hand, and I cannot agree more, because the more we innovate, the more we design, and it's not, we are not to stop there. Intellectual property rights is something which is very, very crucial. Most of the many entrepreneurs shy away, thinking that it's okay. I mean, should I really get an IP? It's such a long process. It's so expensive. But if you have an idea that's worth protecting, and that you feel that this is something you can make it big, you must go in for an IP. And because then otherwise what happens, it just gets copied, it moves global, and there's somebody else taking an IP on your innovation. So that's something that I really wanted, that I have actually stressed a lot in my book. I have a separate chapter for digital India and a separate chapter for intellectual property rights, and I cannot stress more on the importance, and especially how this can act as a catalyst for us to become Atman.
Thank you, Rena. I do have one last final question from the audiences. And that's the last one we'll be able to take because we're running short of time. But here goes. Which country is an ideal example for India to follow implementing changes that you have spoken about in the book? Now, I believe this is not only pertaining to the education sector, but overall as us progressing as an economy.
So there is not just one country, right? I mean, like, there's so much to learn from so many countries around us. there's so much to learn from the US, Japan. I just spoke so much about South Korea. It's not only in education, there are so many other fields where they have really improved. So and I have also in the book, drawn comparisons to different countries and given cited a lot of examples on where we can, truly take the good things from. So if India is looking to become the next manufacturing hub, the factory for the world, we have to look at the country which is currently the factory for the world at the moment, and it is China. And it is important to just go through their journey, that how did they reach where they have reached, what are the different milestones that they achieved, and what accelerated their growth. And that's so I mean, that's pretty much it. So it's not just one country, there's so many countries that we can learn from. And definitely, my book will give uh, anybody who's interested in this question, you will see a lot of examples in the book.
Perfect. Dr. Aditi, would you like to add something here?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, firstly, I would like to agree with Rena that, if you ask me which is the perfect picture or which is the perfect worldview, it's very, very difficult to put in and pinpoint one, because implementation in different sectors is different and different countries are excelling at that. Theoretically, I mean, after a lot of evidence hunting, I would be able to tell you this or that. But, here I would like to take a pause and reflect back on something that Mr. Anil Swaroop had once said. I had the opportunity of interacting with him, and he said, "Ye Netherlands or Finland or ye sab chodo, or motherland ko dekho." So I feel that my point would be, on a more serious note, that India has been extremely unique. It's got a far longer history than any other country in the world. And so we need to probably look at our own implementational styles over the various decades and centuries, and understand what worked for us in our unique conditions, do a proper diagnosis using evidence like Rena has done, and then take an informed call on what works and what does not. But yeah, I just wanted to add on that note. But yeah, I do agree with what she said.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ladies, for your wonderful thoughts today. Rena and Aditi, it's been a pleasure speaking with the two of you. Now, I feel a little more inspired to do my bit to contribute to this vision of the new golden bird. So thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much, Simar, also for being this lovely moderator and throwing questions at us.
Thank you. Rena, I wish you the very best in getting across your message of prosperity to each and every citizen of India. For all of those who would like to get a copy, the book The Golden Bird 2.0 Resurgence of India is available at Oxford bookstores all around. Please also feel free to visit the author's website for future details at www.renasinghvijain.com. Thank you, ladies. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Rena. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.